Welcome to Bridging the Bayou, where we will explore what it means to work, live, and play in the Bayou region. Join us as we take a deeper dive into the people and experiences that make our region such a special place to live and work. On each podcast, we will talk to individuals who are making our region grow and go, who are making strides in uplifting our community. This is a podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Welcome back to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. I'm your host, Chancellor Kristine Strickland, and today I am joined by a friend and colleague, Simone Maloz, who is the campaign director for Restore the Mississippi River Delta, or MRD. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. How exciting to be on.
I know. I can't wait for this. This is going to be a great one, you all. I think there's going to be a lot of laughter. We've already been having some fun here, even before we got rolling. So, but thanks for joining us. And we are going to start with our 5 in 5. And I have been told that sometimes I go over 5 minutes, so I'm calling it now the 5 in 5-ish. But are you ready? Let's get to know you a little better.
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right, here we go. If your life was a movie, what song would be playing during the opening scene?
Oh, I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
Love it. Okay, why? Just a favorite?
That's our float song. You, of all people, should appreciate that.
Yes.
I love it. There are things I need to keep in my head, very important things for work, and I can't because it's filled with Whitney Houston lyrics and other unimportant information like that.
Wonderful. Okay. Question 2, top 3 vacation spots.
Oh, good question. Almost always a beach. Always a beach. I'm a kind of beach girl. But I will say I like national parks. Are you asking for specifics?
Or if you've got some recommendations for our listeners.
Sure. We have been to Yellowstone several times and have had lovely experiences there. We recently went to Europe, and I had never been to Amsterdam, and I loved Amsterdam. Yeah. And then for a beach, always a beach. We like St. John.
Oh, okay.
In the U.S. Virgin Islands. Yes.
Wow. Not a typical destination, maybe.
It is also a national park.
I did not know that either. Get out of town.
Over 60% of the island is preserved, and so it's part of the national park system. Can you imagine being a park ranger for St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands?
I can imagine it. Now I'm wondering how I get
Makes
that
you
gig
rethink
at
some
some
life
point,
choices
right?
there, huh?
Exactly.
Yes.
Speaking of which, that leads right into the next question. If you woke up tomorrow in an alternate universe with a completely different career or life path, what would it be, other than maybe being?
So I'm torn between 2.
Okay.
I always wanted to be a florist.
Really?
Or I wanted to write for a women's magazine. I'm not good at either one of those things, which is why I'm sitting across from you today.
There you go. Do you grow flowers at your house?
No, not at all. I think they're beautiful. I appreciate them, and I appreciate the work that goes into them. I've always loved that. I just always think that's always, usually if you're having a bad day, it makes you feel better. Yeah. If you're experiencing a loss, it's a way for somebody to recognize that. I can't think of an instant where flowers mean something terrible.
That's a great reflection. I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, as a florist, you'd bring joy to people's lives.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes. I will now spend a lot of time thinking about an instance where flowers in your life mean something bad.
No. All right, well,
even a loss, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
You know,
it's still a comforting gesture.
Right.
All right.
Yes. And
maybe
women's
dead roses. I don't know. Maybe there's something there.
Sounds like some breakup we need to talk about.
Maybe. We'll get to that later in the podcast.
But for women's magazines, I used to love getting a glossy, and I would cut things out of them, and I would read them over and over. I just loved them, but very specifically wanted to write for a women's magazine.
I miss the glossy. They come in the mail once a month, and you sit down.
You have to go to the dentist now to appreciate one that is still 2 years old.
Although I had a renewal. I got a magazine the other day in the mail, and it was a renewal. And I was like, why are they sending me this? And then, of course, a few minutes later, my bank account was like, annual renewal, but I get a glossy.
I
And
love
I'm
them.
thrilled. I was like, I'm not even canceling this because I'm happy.
I think it was always like a way. I love to read. I love to read real books. But I think it was like an intentional sit down and do something for yourself and
Yep.
go through. And, you can go through the pages and you can skip the stuff you don't like and reread the stuff you do like.
Very nice. Yeah. And I'll give you a little tip too. For me, I used to use magazines with students I was working with who are having trouble with reading and comprehension because they're written in short amounts, right? You can read a little paragraph, focus on that, instead of having somebody a huge book and saying, sit down and read this and comprehend it. And oftentimes they were reading something, whether it was an auto magazine or a women's magazine, that they were interested in.
Yeah.
So
totally
it promotes
agree.
reading.
Yes.
So look at us. All right, next
How
question.
was that, 5-ish?
That was, I know, we're still, I got one more to
We
go.
still got time.
You did really good on the vacation one, though, so we picked up some time there. All right, what's the simplest thing that instantly makes you feel better?
Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
All right.
That could be the theme song for this one. No, I'll have to say this, and I think you appreciate this. No matter how busy the day is, no matter what's going on, sometimes when I check the phone, I will look at a group chat and there will be 65 messages in one group chat.
Yeah.
And it is also a distraction. It's a way to, for us to still stay in touch. And then you send your friend, what they call the little pebbles, right? And
Yes.
it is a way to constantly stay in contact. And so I know people think that sometimes that hurts relationships. And I think in so many ways it bolsters them. And for me, no matter what kind of day I'm having, I can sometimes go to those group chats and something hilarious has happened or, even something serious that I would not have known about otherwise. And so that's something very small that I think very selfishly that it's a way for me to check in with my friends in a very, very busy life that is not always easy to do.
Yeah. Wonderful. Great.
Should I have said my kids? I love them. They're cute too.
Those were a foregone conclusion. We give you kids, and then
I didn't want to not mention them and think that.
Kids, if you're listening out there, mommy loves you very much.
Yeah.
All
sure.
right. Well, let's turn our attention to what you do with MRD and a little bit about our coast. And I really want to start with at Fletcher, we spend a lot of time with our students exploring careers and what opportunities are out there, and that there is a whole world of various career paths and job opportunities that maybe people don't sometimes think about. And so I'm wondering, what inspired you to really dedicate your entire professional career to Louisiana's coastal communities and to this work you're doing? And sort of how did you get here?
Yeah, that's a great question. It certainly didn't start off that easily. If you would have asked 17-year-old Simone Theriault, who grew up here in Houma, right, what she was going to be doing with her life, I would have never, ever thought it would have landed me back here. And caring so deeply about a place that I did grow up and a place where I raised my family. So I didn't even know the things that were available to me, right? And I feel like that is actually one of the main things I need to do with my kids is to figure out what their interests are and to hone in on those. I didn't know that you could actually be an auto engineer, like somebody who designs cars. Like, how do you, if you live in Houma, Louisiana, and you don't work in Detroit, how do you know that that's something you can do?
Yeah.
So certainly never knew that was an option available to me. I wanted to go away to school. And so I didn't even realize how hard it was to get into an out-of-state school. And anyway, I wanted to do that. And so I went off to the University of Texas right after I graduated high school. And Texas was a lovely place, and Austin is probably very similar, more similar to New Orleans in most places, but it was still very different. And so I came back home. I didn't like that. I came back home, and I had an opportunity to work at Terrebonne General. I worked there all while I finished school. I worked for Phyllis Peoples for all my years in college while I finished at Nichols. And so I was in healthcare.
Did not know that.
Yes. And so I was in the nursing world and administration, working in that office. And then when I graduated with a degree in communications, I had an emphasis in public relations, I actually started doing some human resources work. I worked in recruitment and retention. I did the clinical positions, pharmacists, nursing, certified nursing assistants, LPNs, not doctors, basically.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be a nurse, but I wasn't very good at most of the nursing things. And so this was a way to be in a hospital and be in a big system. And then I had an opportunity from there to go work at the American Cancer Society. And that's where I really got to see another side of it when it came to the development or fundraising, the advocacy part of that, helping patients, helping survivors, helping their families. And from there, I got this wild opportunity to apply for a position for an executive director of a coastal organization called Restore or Retreat. And so I had some fundraising experience, and I could talk about almost anything, amazingly enough. So when that opportunity came up, I thought, I don't have a science background. I don't, I grew up here, obviously. It's part of who I am, but, I didn't have a boat. I didn't spend my, weekends hydrosliding, those kinds of things. And so I did kind of think about that a lot before I even applied for the job. And then to think about somebody's only job all day, every day is to think about this issue that Louisiana has, and come to find out there were lots of people working on this issue. And so it was educational to understand, okay, wait, exactly how big of a problem is Louisiana facing and how much work is it going to take to achieve success. And so that was over 20 years ago. And I did become executive director of Restore Retreat. I had an amazing board of directors and executive committee that I am still close to today and still means so much to me, that helped me in my personal and my professional growth. And so I'm grateful for them for teaching me some of those things. And so I started in January of 2005. I got married in May of 2005. And then, of course, we know we are coming up on the 20th anniversary of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita.
Yep.
And all the rules changed. All of the rules changed in those of the work that I was doing. Also, too, if you'd like to really make sure you have a strong marriage, you should get married and be a newlywed in those days after times, Katrina and Rita, and move around from friends to friends, and really test that relationship.
Exactly.
But
if it's going to stick or not, right?
Yes. So I took a very, very long way to tell you that I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, surrounded by incredible people that helped me really grow to love this issue, become passionate about it. And I don't use those words lightly, because this is my career. This is what I have done for the past 20 years. But certainly, it's a choice.
Yeah. But I love that career shift, right? That you were open to doors that were opening before you. You were opening to continuing to learn and reaching out to people who maybe knew more about the subject matter, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that that's actually a wonderful thing, that you didn't walk into the doors acting like, I know this all, even if you didn't, right? You said, I'm going to lean on people and I'm going to let them help me be successful so that we can really raise this issue. But for me, for the folks who are listening out there, the opportunity at any point in your life's journey to be able to say, maybe you do love, I'm sure you loved healthcare and you loved what you were doing. I mean, you stuck with it. But when another door opened, being curious about that and being open to that experience. So for those who are out there listening, who maybe are thinking about what's next, or maybe you're feeling that tug at yourself to go do something else or try something new, it's possible. And you can have a really successful career.
I couldn't agree more. I think so. When I was at the hospital, DNR meant do not resuscitate, right? And then so switching into this coastal world, it means the Department of Natural Resources. It took me a long while when people were like DNR to kind of shake that out of my brain. But I learned how to be in a work environment. I learned how to be a professional in those days at the hospital. Those things will never ever leave me, and it set me up for success to continue that. And so I actually, when I was at Nichols, I was in the mass communications building, and I passed the radio station. And one day I was just like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in there. And so I started out as a DJ, and then I got to be the program director. And everybody, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, I just wanted to know what that was like. And that was a time where I felt like it was low risk. And
Right.
so yeah, I had some fun days at KNSU because of that. It just seemed interesting to me, and I wanted to try it. I grew up in an environment where that was okay. Like
Yeah.
if you wanted to try something, it was okay. And it especially was okay if you didn't like it, to say you didn't like it, or to say, I still wanted to try something else. So I'm lucky for that.
Yeah, no kidding. What a wonderful way to be brought up. But I totally agree that every job you have, every experience you have, you take something with you that you can absolutely apply to the next thing.
Yeah,
And,
totally agree.
and that's such an important lesson. So let's talk about MRD. Tell us a little bit about what is your mission? What does the organization do? And then really, I'm interested in knowing too, how does that tie to some of the broader coastal work that's happening in our state?
Yeah, great question. So I worked at Restore Retreat for 17 years and worked, in the Bayou region, obviously a place that I grew up and loved and, knew a lot of people, knew a lot about. And then I had an opportunity to move on to this coalition, which is really several different coastal organizations that are brought together in the same way. And so I had worked with them before, and I had a chance to kind of step up into this different role. There are 3 national organizations, some would say even international organizations, and then one Louisiana-based organization that make up the coalition. And so being kind of a lone wolf, I had always had folks that worked with me at Restore Retreat and had that great board and executive committee. But this was about being kind of part of something bigger that meant all trying to be on the same page to achieve the same thing. I now use more words like goals, deliverables, outputs, outcomes. We could have a whole podcast on those fun things. I'm kind of the band director, and we're kind of all trying to be on the same sheet of music, playing the same song, moving in the same direction, even though there's a clarinet section, even though there's a percussion section. So that's basically what I do every day. So I get to work on these issues that I love in a really big way, including policy, communications, funding. But I have an amazing team of scientists and outreach and engagement specialists and young people that, frankly, I learn from every day. In this job, I have not stopped learning, and I think that's really important. Our name is pretty simple because we do just that. We try to restore the Mississippi River Delta, and that, as you know, is very complex. And we have a big team that helps us and how we do it. I know you've had people like Brent Haas on before and representing different coastal organizations. And one might say, oh, y'all are all kind of the same. And I would very much argue that I could tell you per an organization what makes us different. Maybe some are volunteer driven. Maybe some are driven by water quality or citizen science. So I can tell you the differences between these different organizations, but all together we make up a wonderful community that have supported a very important program here at the state while it really got its legs and started to see success, but success at a very critical time, at a time, in the aftermath of Katrina and Rita, just a few short years later to Deepwater Horizon, all these things that were major milestones and events here in coastal Louisiana. And we all played a different role in that. It's interesting to be a part of that community. It's like a family, Chancellor. Maybe you don't always like them, but you got but they're in the family. We're all trying to, move towards
and Dolores
the same
shows up for Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Right. We can talk offline about who the Dolores is. But no, all kidding aside, one of the best things about the work that we do is that the recognition, obviously, here in coastal Louisiana, about the importance of the work, the need to have science drive decisions, but have that very valuable community input. Right. That's uplifting to see that recognition permeate in the communities that we're trying to protect.
Excellent. And look, I'm sure there are folks out there who are saying, wait a minute, you just said that some of these groups who work with you are international, national. And I'm sure they're wondering, why are they interested in Louisiana's coast?
Oh, for once, Louisiana is the very top of the list on how we're addressing our climate challenges. So we
Awesome.
are experiencing a tough climate future, and
Mhm.
that could be for a variety of reasons. We have extreme weather events. We have, rising seas. We have sinking silts and clays. And so after Katrina and Rita, when we said we cannot do our business the same way any longer, we cannot have levee structural protection over here and natural defenses like coastal restoration over here. We built a program that became the gold standard. And we play,
Wow.
as nonprofits, we played a role in translating. And this is a little bit about accessibility, but we translated the very important plan that we have, the
Mhm.
comprehensive master plan. We translated it into 4 different languages.
Oh,
And
wow.
we wanted to increase accessibility. We wanted
Yeah.
to make sure people had access to that. But we had international eyes on us. How are they recovering from the storm? How are they doing all these years later? How are they calculating
Hmm.
success? And so we became the thing that everybody wanted to have. We had the thing that everybody wanted to have. And so we have Virginia, the Carolinas, Tampa Bay is starting a coastal master plan. And so
Wow.
people take what's happening here in coastal Louisiana, the very tough lessons that we've learned, but they see the success that we've had, having that science base driven by the community, being in the communities talking about it,
Mhm.
and they want to model that for their own cities and places. And so I think that's really important here in coastal Louisiana, is that people should know that we were at the top of our game doing this and people wanted to be like us.
Yeah. And look, there are so many times when we hear what the challenges are facing our state or how maybe we're not at the ranking where we want to be yet. So to hear that in this area in particular, we have the gold star and we're leading the way is fantastic news, I think, for all of us.
A lot of times we end up talking about the environment and how
Hmm.
critical it is to protect the protection or protect these coastal communities. But if you want to talk about money, we can talk about money too, because it's billions and
Yeah.
billions of dollars being invested in our region, being invested in this capacity to restore and protect ourselves. We should be able to harness that and export that. And that is also something that
It's a
we've
great point.
seen, that when Hurricane Superstorm
Hmm.
Sandy hit the Northeast, you know who they came to try to
Yeah.
help them recover? They came to us. And so, in a variety of different ways, just how do you recover after a disaster, to how do you build a seawall?
Hmm.
How do you try to make sure this doesn't happen again? And so, if we take that investment and we really harness it the way that we should, we can build generations
Hmm.
of capacity and knowledge that we could use not just here in Louisiana, but that we could absolutely export
Yep.
to these places that are experiencing similar challenges to we.
Yeah, no. And look, on a side note to that, a few years ago, you were talking about Amsterdam being a
Yeah.
place, and I love Amsterdam. But we had an opportunity to do a sort of a water tour
Mm-hmm.
around the country, and we went up by the North Sea. And there was actually a museum up there dedicated to Katrina and the lessons that we learned. And we talked a lot as we talked with experts in that country about what they were taking away and learning from us in terms of our response, our recovery, where we've gone since then. And so I totally agree. I was so surprised to be somewhere as remote as that and to walk into this museum and having lived in New Orleans during Katrina, it was a very emotional experience for me. But to see that somewhere, around the world, somebody else was recognizing the work that's being done here was really impactful.
You know, a lot of times people think, oh, why can't we build islands like they do in Dubai? Or why
Hmm.
can't we have the protection system like they have in the Netherlands? And it's like, well, we can talk about the differences,
Hmm.
right? A lot of it has to do with political will. It has to do with money. It
Yeah.
has to do with a commitment. And I think we're starting to talk about that more and more. This year was the 15th anniversary of Deepwater Horizon, and now it's the 20th anniversary of Katrina and Rita. And so we're hearing this call to kind of recommit to the coast, recommit to those tough lessons that we learned. And so in so many ways, it feels like that was just yesterday, both events. But then, Chancellor, I think we do have to remind ourselves of those tough days, of why we made the changes that we did, why we wanted to think about not just planning in the short term, but why we need to plan for the long term as well. Why we need to think bigger. I can't just think about what's happening to me in my backyard. I have to think bigger. I have to think about the region. And so I think that, all of these anniversaries, while they bring up some horrific scenes and it was a tragedy, it's also a chance for us to remind ourselves that we made this commitment in the first place. Right. We've seen success, and so we need to make that recommitment as well.
Excellent. So from your perspective, what do you think right now are the most urgent and pressing issues that we need to tackle?
I think we can never stop talking about the challenges that we face, but kind of my personality is to talk about the opportunities. And I think for a very long time, there were opportunities. We have this brilliant coastal master plan that has seen several iterations, and that's not fun or sexy to talk about a plan. But I
love a good plan.
We've seen that plan in action, and we've seen where we have put projects on the ground and started to see success there. And so we can never tire of the idea that there is always more work to do. While we should definitely applaud ourselves for the success that has happened and for the way that we have committed to doing it differently and doing it better, we can't take our foot off the gas there. And so there's always more work to be done. I'll tell you a very simple challenge is even things like the Louisiana legislature, and I don't want to talk about politics, but they have several demands on them from all different places for different reasons. And so to always make sure the coast remains a priority, even to Northern Louisiana legislators, is always an educational challenge that you can never take your foot off the gas of. And so you can't take for granted that somebody understands the situation, and you can't take for granted that they already know the history and how you got here, why we made those tough changes after Katrina and Rita. And so I think that's something that we always have to be mindful of, is never to let go of that educational moment, because I think it's always needed.
Yeah, and look, we know in various roles, whether they're elected officials or even just in everyday positions, there's transitions, right? And new people coming on. And again, kind of back to that original point we talked about, needing to learn, right?
Always willing to learn.
Is to help being that educator. You've mentioned a couple of times about communities, and I'm just wondering, what do you all do, or what do you see as a pathway to make sure that we are empowering our local communities to be aware, to learn, to advocate for their own communities in this fight for our coast?
I think we've learned time and time again where you can't just have a plan and then tell somebody from a community, oh, this is what we're going to do. That's not okay. You know, they want to be a part of it from the beginning. They want to be a part of shaping it. The communication street it goes two ways, right? I may want to do it this way in this place, and they're like, well, you can't do it that way because the water doesn't move this way, or when a storm comes, so that exchange of information is very critical because of that local expertise and traditional, whether it be ecological knowledge or otherwise, that they should be sharing those things so that we understand that those plans can be realistic and can be implemented. And so we've seen that time and time again, the importance of going to communities first and having them be a part of the discussion. I think for our role as nonprofits, we want folks to understand their risk. We want them to know what happens in a future where you might not build that project, or what the challenges they face. And, we don't want to make decisions for them, right? But we want to make sure they have all the information to make decisions and make their own opinions. And so I think a challenge to that is that same as we were talking about elected officials, but same in communities, they, have lots of things coming at them all the time about this project that may not even be coastal or something else that's happening, and you have to make sure that you're taking that into account when you consider their own needs. Is that my coastal priority might not be the thing that's most important to you right now.
Right.
I think also a time and a place for a reflection of we're coming up on 4 years after Hurricane Ida, and recognizing that in some coastal communities they have not recovered or there's incomplete recovery, and so you have to know those things that are going on in the communities that we're literally trying to protect or restore. Right. But Chancellor, you brought up something. We were talking about elected officials and having them educated. But as a person who's had 20 years in a nonprofit, I had a board. I had wonderful executive committee members. And so there are citizens in this community that are not elected that have led for so long or want to lead. And so I think even the nonprofit community and the way that folks have stepped up for philanthropy basically is another whole layer of leadership that I think goes unnoticed, and I think is just very critical to success in any program moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a sort of a combination or a coalition.
Yes.
Right? Of all of those folks. So with that, in terms of partnerships, I know Fletcher has played a part. I know that there are other organizations who maybe are not necessarily a part of MRD in that coalition, like officially. But what part do other partners play? And maybe you could talk a little bit about the role of community colleges in this work.
In the family that we have all these great cousins, right?
Right?
You know,
okay.
if you want
I get to be a great cousin, y'all.
We have siblings.
I'm the cool one.
Yeah. So for one very specific example, we had an opportunity to do some outreach and engagement in the South of Fouche community, and we wanted to have an educational component to that. So we called you guys up and we said, will y'all team up with us to do this? Yep. I saw that BitNep is y'all are doing the coastal classes. Have you learned to drive an airboat? Do you have that?
Not yet. Not yet. Forklift I've got down. The airboard I'm working on.
As Tim Allen of Apache says, they have no brakes, no reverse. You know, you got to watch those airboats. But there are wonderful ways that we can partner. I think even letting students know about the educational opportunities that y'all offer here that can lead them on a career path that can span their whole lifetime, right? And it's diverse, too, that you can work in one area and the skills are transferable to another area. If you're working in oil and gas, you could very easily work for an engineering firm that's also doing a coastal project. We have this great network. So we do not do volunteer opportunities. And so we call Bren up, or we call our friends at Pontchartrain Conservancy up and say, hey, we have some folks coming to town. Can you help them plant trees? Can you help them? It's having a network. It's like the version of I've got a guy, but for nonprofits. Like,
very nice.
Oh, I don't do education, but I got a guy. And so in this case, I got a chancellor and she can help me. We don't do K through 12 education. We have partners that do. And so we'll refer to them. And I think that's important to recognize. I don't need to be a Jack or Jill of all trades. I mean, that may not make me great at anything. And so instead, I rely on these partnerships. I think for me, in my 20 years, that it's about relationships. Yeah. And it's about hopefully the first time I come at you is not to ask you for something. You know, I hope that I have done something for you or we've done something together. So I think all of that is based on relationships, which I think is really important.
Yeah. And look, I love the idea of leveraging the strengths of all. I really do believe that that's how strong communities are built. They're not built through duplication or replication, right, or competition. They are built where I know what I do well, and I'm going to do that thing the best. But then when I have an opportunity or a challenge or something where it's maybe not in my wheelhouse, that I know who to reach out to, that I know how to partner with that group to kind of bring the strengths of everyone to kind of uplift the whole situation. So love that you guys do that. You just touched on something when you were talking just a minute ago, and it really led beautifully into my next question for you, which was, these days we talk a lot about Louisiana's economy.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about economic development and driving new industry and bringing new partners into our region. What do you think is the connection between a healthy coast or an active coast, right? Or these restoration resiliency efforts and our economy that maybe people don't really, they're like, I don't see the connection.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's so simple, like how, if you don't have a healthy, vibrant coast, and that is as much as about ecosystems as it is a working coast, then it makes being here incredibly difficult, right? And that you can spin off in so many different directions there. It makes insurance too high.
Yeah.
It makes constructing a road very difficult, right? Because it sinks or it'll be underwater, as we know from our friends on LA1, right?
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to here in Louisiana, we are so tied to our natural resources. We are so, we're sportsman's paradise. We are that working coast. We're so tied to that, that, it's not just like you can tell a shrimper who has this, amazing asset in a boat, and that's their way of life, to, can you just drive 2 hours more or keep your boat somewhere else because we don't have storm protection for you, or we don't have, the natural defenses anymore to do that. And so here in Louisiana, I think we're just so tied to those natural resources that it is what has uplifted us. It has what has made us this special and unique place, but it also has brought us great challenges. Somebody told me once, I was going to say balance, and somebody told me recently that balance is not always a good word.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you can't achieve a perfect balance, and there's too much to lose there. So I will now be careful when I use the word balance.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times, especially when people are talking like work-life balance. There is no such thing. And I can buy into that a little bit, but I also think that it is about our priorities and where we deploy our resources.
Fair.
Right? And that's probably the thing that's most meaningful in terms of where do we have resources and expertise and all of those things, and then where do we deploy those to make sure that we have the biggest impact for our communities as a whole.
And you can get into the messiness of, okay, if too many people leave, then so does your tax base. And so, you can get into the dollars and cents of that. But I think it comes down to, people want to live here. We have to make it a place that is less risky to live here. But I think we have to be honest about those risks, and people have to understand for themselves the challenges, but also the opportunities, what we're doing to reduce that risk. So I don't want to get into ad valorem taxes.
Please don't.
That ain't me, Chancellor.
I was going to say, you would be diving into a pool that would be so deep, you'd never find me again.
I guess I'm just, not articulating very well that, there's 1,000 reasons why you can say why we should protect our coasts, and you can use really big words, but we want to live here. We choose to live here. We enjoy the natural resources that it provides. And so we need to be honest about the challenges and the risks that come with living here.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's home.
At the end of the day, it's home.
As we begin to kind of wrap things up, I do want to ask, let's take a moment. We're gonna put you in my time travel machine. We're gonna cast you into the future.
Okay,
we're going to the future.
Like,
we're not going back. We're not looking back. Not looking back. But and you're now 50 years ahead. And what is your hope?
You were gonna call me 50 years old.
Oh, no,
not yet. God, Kristine.
No, never. You're 50 years and you're just celebrating your, let's go with 60th birthday.
All right, yeah.
50 years from now.
Good math.
I don't know. Math was not my strong subject, but that's all right. But what does Louisiana's coast look like? What do these efforts look like?
That's a great question. I'll frame it about the kids that I didn't talk about in the beginning of the show. I loved growing up here. I loved living here. There were so many things that I didn't even know and took for granted that were unique or different. As a lover of Mardi Gras, you would
Yep.
appreciate that. When I was in third grade, they brought the white alligator to my classroom.
Oh, very
He's a
cool.
little baby. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you think that happens in Ohio, Chancellor?
No.
So there were so many things that I love about living here.
Yeah.
I want my children to love and appreciate those same things, but I want them to live in a place that is healthy. I want them to live in a place that is vibrant, and I want them to live in a place that has a secure future. And so I think about that. I think about choices that we're making every day are definitely not for us. I think that can get confusing sometimes where people are making decisions for me or for us. And I get frustrated when people say, why do we have a 50-year plan? We should have a 5-year plan. I think those 5 years pass in a blink of an eye.
Sure do.
But I also think that we have such limited resources, including natural resources, including money, but most importantly, time, and that we don't have all the time in the world. We have to make good investments. And I think it is about those other generations. And so I think if we're talking when I'm 60 years old or 50 years from now, I'm making decisions today that are hopefully for those future generations so that they can appreciate this place that I love and choose to live and choose to be here. And hopefully they're doing it with less risk or they have some opportunities to think about what that vibrant, healthy future looks like.
I think that at the end of the day, no matter what the topic is, most people, when you ask them why they are working as hard as they are, why they live where they are, whatever it is, a lot of times it is about those future generations. It's, I want my children to have a better life. I know we hear that so many times with graduates who walk across the stage here at Fletcher, right? When we ask them, what's your why? Why did you do this, right? I wanted a better life for my family. I wanted my children to see that anything was possible, right? And that's for your grandchildren too. But recognizing that to get to that place, it requires us to do some things today.
Absolutely.
That begin to lay that foundation. I heard a great quote earlier this summer. It was, it's okay to start where you stand, but it's not okay to stay there if you want change. Like, it's okay to acknowledge here's where we are today. But if you know you want something different for yourself, for your community, for our state, for our region, it requires that we do something today. And so I want to ask you, for folks who are sitting out there and listening, and I know you don't do volunteer activities, but they're saying, I'm interested.
I will volunteer. No, I'm just saying that we don't organize.
Okay, you don't organize. We know we'll get you out there. But for those who are listening and watching and they're like, well, yeah, I'm passionate or I want to learn more, what would you suggest that they could do? What's the step that they could take today?
That's a question we get often, and I think you can never tire of answering it, because I think when we talk about projects, we talk about billions of dollars. We talk about hundreds of millions, and I think people can easily say, how do I fit into that?
Yeah.
And so I think being engaged in any kind of way is great. I think understanding something like the fact that we have a coastal master plan, people can not just learn more about the plan, they could submit project ideas for consideration. And they can get engaged in that way. Or if you want to get your hands dirty, you can certainly do that. You can go plant a tree. You can go clean a storm drain. You can do water quality monitoring. You can, the first Sunday of the month, they have a Center for River Studies. You can go look at the river model. You can take little actions, whatever you want. I think the third thing I would greatly encourage is to use your voice. If you don't like the way that something's happening, if you do, especially if you do like something that's happening, to use your voice. When you go into the voting booth, think about somebody that cares about your community. Think about somebody that has talked about the coast or has taken steps to help protect that. And so I think I would end on that one. Most importantly is you have a voice. You have a voice here, and it demands to be heard. And so whether you use that voice in the voting booth or at a public meeting or to submit a thank you or, what's the opposite of a thank you? To
a challenge.
To
pose an opportunity.
to somebody that you don't like what's happening. I think that's really important.
Excellent. And if people want to learn more about MRD, you have a website, I'm assuming.
We do. Mississippi River Delta, which is, make sure you're spelling Mississippi correctly. It's a little test for everybody. But I would refer you out to our friends as well. So we're Mississippi River Delta. We're on all the socials. I have a podcast.
Oh, yes,
Delta
please.
Dispatches. Yes, you can tune in, but certainly want to refer you to our friends at Pontchartrain Conservancy, which is Science for Our Coast, our friends at BitNep, which is bitnep.org, and then my old haunt, Restore Retreat, which is restoreretreat.org.
Wonderful. And look, we will post all of these websites and all of this information in our show notes, so please make sure to check those out. Be sure to check out Simone's podcast. I've listened to it. It's amazing. You're going to want to catch that one as well. So before I let you go, I do have 2 ending questions for you.
Do I get to choose?
No,
or I have to
you do both. You have to do both. So the first one is, and this may be kind of the question that I normally ask, but instead of getting some scoop on you and then bringing it in, I'm just going to ask you, what is something that you're good at that most people have no idea?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Are you like the hula hoop champion of the world?
No.
Okay.
No. Keep challenging me. No, I don't know these things. I'm really good at.
Anything anybody doesn't know about you?
Yes.
That you could say on a podcast.
I will have to say, very funny. One time I had was in the Homer Chamber that used to have a magazine, and I forgot why, but I was in the Homer Chamber magazine, and they asked me like if I had special talents or whatever, and so I was like, I'm really into. I can't believe I'm saying this, origami. Like, I really like that. I think that's very cool. I cannot tell you how many people were like, I did not know that. I'm like, that is absolutely not true. I just wanted to see how many people maybe would read it, So then I was like, oh, maybe I should get good at origami, I'm not very good at crafting. I'm not very good at those things.
So wait a minute, we should not ask you to make a paper bird? Is that what you're telling me?
No, but I just thought like, oh, that's just funny. Even my mom was like, wait, I didn't know that. Like you were in...
So you fibbed a little on your hidden talent.
Yes. I used to tell people, I was like, I think I'd be amazing at tennis. And they're like, do you play tennis? I'm like, I never played once. So maybe.
But you think you'd be good at it?
I think I could be good at it. So now I think to be on trend, I'd say like, I think I'd be a killer pickleball player.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I just need to try it, but I think I'd be really good at it.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to say, Drew Brees, if you're watching out there, Simone, she's ready. She's ready to come on to be your partner on this. So, all right, last question for you is that I'm to understand that you have a bit of a crown. And that you are known throughout some circles as the Queen of the Coast.
In the group chats. In those group chats that we talk about.
So tell me, how did that come to be, Queen of the Coast?
I think by default.
Okay.
That I am very proud to be a female leader in a space that could be very dominated by men. And so I think when I started, I was also a lot younger. And so I think I represented a different voice. But yeah, some friends of mine have definitely bestowed that on me. I had several great opportunities. I was on a magazine cover one time for my work, and I got to speak here or there and stuff. And so I saw one time that like every successful woman has a fantastic group chat, right? And that's part of that. That is part of just pumping each other up, being not even in the same workspace, but acknowledging the work that that each other does and admiring that. And so I am grateful to have an amazing group of cheerleaders behind me that have gotten me through tough days and have given me recognition in really, really meaningful ways. So
awesome. And look, I'm going to bring this full circle. The very beginning, and I asked you what you would be doing if you weren't doing this, and you said writing for a women's magazine. And so hearing your story, hearing everything that you've reflected on, and first of all, you've been a cover model.
I made all of it up.
I know.
Taken from the origami page. I just made all of that up.
No,
I'm a
I don't
storyteller.
believe it. I don't believe it for a minute. But I'm just going to say, you've been on a magazine cover. And look, I'm just going to end it by saying, and I think you are writing your own story of women's leadership in this space. And so congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, look, want to thank Simone for joining us here on Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. I want you to be sure to like and follow us and Simone's podcast, wherever you get your podcast. And we look forward to talking again soon. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for listening to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.